Hey everybody, it's Sean and Rob from 2Roofs, and we're excited to get to interview Dan Hammil today. He's a old friend of mine, and we're excited to have him on here. He's a Bellingham City Councilman, and I just love him because he's got such a passion for affordable housing and for other humans. He's just a great person to be around and just a great friend. So thanks, Dan. Appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for saying that. That's really nice. Thank you.
You bet. So I thought it'd be cool just maybe if you could introduce yourself, a little bit of your story. I mean, I met you way back when you were working at the volunteer center, and we did Project Homeless Connect together. And but I thought it'd be cool just to hear a little bit of your passion for affordable housing and how you came to have that kind of heart.
Yeah, affordable housing is super important in Bellingham. As we know, it's expensive to live here, and a lot of people struggle. We have some folks that are called ALICE people, asset limited, income constrained, and employed. And those folks make up about 40% of our population. So I just have a deep heart for folks that are struggling. I grew up in a trailer park, part-time with my dad and part-time with a single mom. This was back in Wisconsin. And so I know what poverty looks like firsthand. I know what it looks like to live through it. I've gotten out of poverty. I worked and made a career and have been successful. But I feel like it's my responsibility to give back to the community. If I am able to give back, then I should give back. That's my personal belief system. And I've been doing that since the late 90s. I've been involved in a lot of different things. Sean mentioned Project Homeless Connect. That homelessness really resonates with me. I've had members of my family that were homeless, and that's really tough to watch both them and family go through that. That's real. Everyone is a son or a daughter, and I feel just compelled to try to give back and help folks out. And so yeah, we started Project Homeless Connect. It's been like 12 years ago now.
Mm.
And we've done stuff with distributing furniture to people who just got housing for several years, and worked with lots and lots of volunteers over the years. That's one thing that really, I think, makes Bellingham a lot different from other communities, is that we volunteer here and give back so much. And you guys do that. You're like the epitome of that in many ways, where you started a company and you're like, how do we do this? But how do we be socially responsible and give back? And that's, to me, that's the heart and soul and spirit of Bellingham. And that's, I think that's why I connect with people like that just want to be a part of it, and play a role and be kind, and maybe look through the lens of love. And yeah, and
Cool.
yeah, and this place is just so much of that. And so,
Yeah.
I thank you for what you all are doing too.
Oh man, it's just a pleasure to get to hang around with people like you. So,
Totally.
Rob, didn't we volunteer on the House to Home project he was talking about? I think gosh, when that was probably 15 years ago we started that, the House to Home, right?
Yeah, it was back in the day. It was like mid 2000s.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, so it would have been right around there.
Yeah. And
But all
Rob,
kind of,
yeah.
we all had that same idea of like, we're putting people in housing, so how do we get them furniture? I mean, like, it's the most basic thing.
Yeah, I remember that. That's right. We were scavenging furniture and delivering.
Delivering, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we've been involved in Project Homeless Connect and other things. So
yeah,
that's great, man. So I'm curious what this has been like for you this quarantine time, the social distancing, and how are you and your family holding up?
we're doing well. We're obeying the rules. We're staying home. We're staying healthy. Washing our hands. When we go out, we wear masks and gloves, and we follow the rules. And I think the most important thing is stay. One of my friends said, stay with your pod of people, right? So that's your family, probably.
Right.
And my pod is Kelly, my wife, and I. And we're both elected people in Bellingham. She's a school board director, has been on for 12 years. And I think they're doing their meetings with Zoom as well. We just had our first city council meeting on Zoom. So we're adjusting to the new normal. And I think people are being gracious and kind.
Yeah.
And I think that, and patient. And those things are, I think, really important. I have that urge to give back. And so I started working with the food bank last week, and I helped hand out food on last Wednesday, and there must have been, I don't know, a few hundred cars come through.
Wow.
And you see the gratitude in the kindness in people's eyes, and the thumbs up.
Yeah.
Like we are in this together. And I did some deliveries last Friday for the food bank as well, and took food to people's homes. Same thing. I mean, people are. I mean, I don't think I'm naive. I'm 51 years old. I don't think I'm naive anymore. But I do truly believe that most people are kind and want to give, and they want to receive too, in that humble way. And I think that giving and receiving is such an important piece of our human condition, and just to see that and to feel that in that real visceral way is something that I was able to do by volunteering.
Man, that's really cool that you did that. That's awesome.
Cool.
Is there more need for that kind of volunteerism right now?
Well, I talked to Mike Cohen, who's the executive director of the food bank today, and he said that they're full up on volunteers right now. I think a lot of people have the same idea. They want to just get out there. But for people that want to volunteer, yeah, there's definitely, I would go to Whatcom Unified Command, and that's on the Whatcom County website. I think if you just type in, you can find it and look for volunteer opportunities. It was a pretty smooth process. You have to go through a background check. You've got to go get an ID badge. So it takes a couple of days to get going. But once you're through that process, then you can go and do whatever work is needed. And I don't know the specific jobs that they're looking for, but they are asking for volunteers. So there are opportunities to help.
Unified Command, you said.
Yeah, that's the so it's public health, sheriff's department, our police, our executive team. I think some port people are in there too, and they're all out at the emergency operations center, which is out by the airport. And that's if we had like an earthquake or a lahar, they would run that out of there. They would run that response out of there, and that's what they're doing right now for COVID.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good to know. I didn't know about that. That's really cool. So what do you think, I mean, obviously there's so many people out of work right now. There's so many people that are panicking about losing housing right now. And, obviously health concerns, income loss. What do you think are going to be some of the challenges that we're going to face here in Whatcom County, even coming out of this into, summer and fall? What do you think how do you think that's going to affect our community?
I think there's going to be two crises. One is the pandemic that we're going through as a public health crisis currently. And so the crisis that we are feeling is our isolation, our hanging out with our people, our pods. The second crisis will be an economic crisis. And that's going to be a long tail crisis. I don't know if you guys just saw, I just read it, or Kelly just told me, and it made my heart just feel like crushed. Alcoa is shutting down.
Oh,
and
wow.
that's 700 good paying jobs. I think they were hurting before this, and now I think the projections weren't very good, and so that's tough. And we have a lot of service workers that are out of work. Downtown is all the restaurants are basically closed unless they're doing delivery. So to address this, I was kind of just looking around at what are other cities doing to stand up for themselves during this pandemic. And Councilwoman Tammy Morales from Seattle put forward a resolution calling for more federal aid and more state aid. So calling on President Trump and Governor Inslee to provide sustained relief, both mortgage and rental relief for small businesses, renters, and homeowners. And so I looked at that piece of legislation and asked Councilmember Holly Huffman to help me with that. She's a downtown business owner. She owns the Shakedown and the Racket. She's laid off 20 people. She's feeling it. She's got expensive rent to pay. Right. And so the city of Bellingham is not going to be able to pay everyone's rent. There's just no way. We would collapse in, I don't know, a week or less. Yeah. So what we can do is we can ask our partners at the state and federal level for help, for more assistance. And so that's what we did. And last Monday, we got that resolution passed, and Mayor Seth Fleetwood's going to sign that. And we're joining Seattle, Burien, Redmond, Spokane's looking at doing it. I think that actually passed this week. San Francisco's also asking for help. West Coast cities need to stand together, and this is all hitting us. This is hitting our jobs, our families, and our housing. And so we have to ask for more help, and our federal government and state government, to a lesser degree, but to some degree, needs to stand behind us and provide that relief. And the feds are the only ones that are going to be able. The feds can print money and they can borrow money, and we don't print money, and we can borrow a little bit, but we're not going to be able to borrow enough.
Right. So how will people be able to access these funds?
So you all, if you have an account with the IRS, we got our money, our stimulus money. I think it was this week or maybe late last week.
Yeah.
And so the 80 million people that have accounts with the IRS get that relief immediately. There's a 70 million group of people that don't have those electronic fund capabilities. So they'll get a check between now and June.
Okay.
So not soon enough. And then the folks that are there's another chunk of folks that have not filed with IRS, and they're typically don't make enough money to not have to file.
Yeah.
And they may not receive anything unless they apply for it. So
Right.
What I'd want to see, ideally, I mean, an ideal magic wand world, is the Federal Reserve creates a checking account for every American, so that in times of crisis and pandemics, we've had 3 of them now in our lifetimes where the government stepped in. So have that checking account where they can just get the money right in there and provide that relief. That would make it so much easier. It makes me, I don't want to get weepy here, but it makes me really, I feel for people who are stressed out and don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
That's hard. And that's a real thing.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that those folks that they have some reassurance at least. And that's what we did with that resolution, was to try to tell our constituents that we care, and that we will stand with them and stand behind them during this time, because they need to know that their representatives do care.
Yeah.
All right, sorry about that, man. It's just really, I'm feeling it. I'm an INFJ on Myers-Briggs personality, so that's the feeling thing. I'm like, I just feel it. But I care deeply about those folks, and I want to make sure that they're helped out. But to your question, Sean, that we have to have a system of immediate relief for folks, and those checks, we're not going to get by on $1,200 a piece. That's just not going to happen. So what I'm asking for is more sustained relief. I don't want people to lose their housing, and to be able to just buy groceries and just get on with life,
Yeah, man, that's okay. Well, it's cool to hear you're stepping into that that. And thanks for sharing your heart on it too, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Wow. So I'm curious what you think is going to be the effect on homelessness. I mean, what do you think is going to happen in the coming year? Do you have any prediction?
We're stabilizing pretty well now. We've got the drop-in center moved to Bellingham High School. I think you guys might have known about that.
Mm-hmm.
So to do the social distancing, and I think seeing that level of cooperation where you have one institution, the school district, working with other institutions to try to extend a lifeline to help them, like that's a big deal. That level of cooperation is important.
Yeah.
And facing the issue of homelessness, it's going to be even more important. We're gonna have to really work together on this, and we're gonna have to be allies. And there was some sniping over the past couple of years over how the issue's been dealt with. And I'm not a finger pointer. I'm not the kind of person that's going to rush in and start pointing fingers and blaming people.
Yeah.
I think people are suffering, and that's a real deal. And I think that we've made some investments. We've made some investments in the GRACE program, the ground level response and coordinated engagement program.
Yeah.
I was one of the founders of that program with the mayor's office, the health department, the hospital, and the Opportunity Council. That program is treating people in the community that have either mental health illness or substance use disorder that come into contact frequently with our systems.
Yeah.
We've added some medical assistant treatment in the community, actually quite a bit. That's for opiate treatment. And so we've seen some successes along those lines as it relates to how those things intersect with homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
I have concerns around methamphetamine increased use. That's like it kind of flipped over. It used to be heroin and meth was really down here, and now it's the other way around.
Okay.
And there's no medical analog for methamphetamine. There's no real treatment option for it. There's no medical application where medical trials could be conducted to figure out how do we get people off this stuff. That's not reality. So I do have some concerns around that. I think largely as a community we've responded very well to people who are experiencing homelessness, but we have a long way to go. This is it's a global crisis. It is a global crisis. And so, when we have like small units of government like Bellingham City Council trying to figure out how to address all this stuff, we have to contextualize that this is a huge issue. Even if we just look at it nationally, if you look at California, a lot of people lost their homes as a result of wildfires and are now homelessness or living in RVs and things like that. That stuff happens. I think on our front, what we see for homelessness contributing factors are, job loss. And we're going to see that more now. Lost housing, was a big medical bill that I couldn't pay. And then you have some numbers of people who have the substance use or mental health issues. But it's the ones I'm really worried about. I'm worried about everybody. I'm totally worried about everybody. But the ones that I'm just feeling for, who are at the edge of homelessness, have kids who have been doing what they were told to do. If they go to work, they punch the clock, they play by the rules, and now the game just changed. Yeah. And it's not fair. It's not fair at all. But I think as a community, I think we need to be looking for opportunities to assist people, to make sure that they're fed and that they're housed. And we need to keep doing what we're doing with building housing through the Bellingham Home Fund. That passed again last time around. That's great news, but there's no building going on right now. Yeah. So that's an issue. And so our inventory, we're kind of stuck right now. We were doing pretty well. We were getting out of the low 1% and less vacancy rate, but we're stuck. And so all that has to cycle up again. And so we've got the buildings have to get built and market rate as well too. When we have market rate units that are created, that frees up others for affordable housing. You know how that whole supply chain goes when it comes to how housing is, how different types of housing are necessary in our community to address everyone's needs. So I'm honest with you guys. I'm concerned. I'm concerned, but I'm confident. I know our community cares a lot. And we've always stepped up, and we will continue to step up.
Yeah, totally. We've seen that too.
Yeah.
So do you have any kind of practical suggestions for people who watch this video on how, whether it's now or a few months from now when the quarantine is up, of how people can practically get involved and support affordable housing?
Yeah, let's see. I'd say, Bellingham can only do so much. And I think that we as a community need to be asking our partners at the state level to increase the state housing trust fund dollars, which were increased last time around, but need to keep going up. They're nowhere near the previous levels of when they were actually sustainable. That fund is something that can be used to build more housing. And that's just a practical reality. And, I never used to like to write my representatives, and I always felt embarrassed, like I didn't know what I was talking about. One of our representatives lives literally down the block, Sharon Shoemake. She lives over just in the Leonard Streets neighborhood. And people are people. And if we can reach out to our state representatives and encourage them to, during the special session, which is going to be coming up, and that's important. I think it's going to be coming up in August or September. That's an opportunity for us to really get out in front of the message and let our representatives know that affordable housing is critical to our community, and they can support that through legislation. during the special session, and then also next time around during the next session, which is the long session, that's the capital budget session, which is where all the money gets pushed out. Okay. So if we really want to be practical about it and create effective solutions, it is writing to your representatives. It's going down on a lobby day during either special or long session, making the drive down to Olympia. I did it for House Bill 1590. House Bill 1590 passed, not because of me, but I went down there and I lobbied for it for sure. Yeah. And because I felt like, we need the money. We need to have an extra $5 million a year for mental health and housing dollars. And that's what that bill did. So I think that's really the most effective thing. Okay. As far as, keeping up with things and keeping busy with things, pay attention to city council meetings. We talk about this stuff periodically throughout the year. Write your city and county council members to encourage them to find funds and sources of money for more affordable housing. Those are the practical things that I would think of.
Cool, man. Thank you. So before we go, do you have any kind of last words or encouragement for folks who have watched this video?
I'd just say that as a city council member, I'm thinking about everybody in Bellingham. I care deeply about this community. I care deeply about people like Rob and Sean who are stepping up to do things like this, to get a message out like this to the community. I think that's super cool. And thank you guys for doing what you do. And please be safe and stay home, stay healthy.
Yeah, man. Will do. You do the same, buddy.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for all you do.
Look forward to a few months from now or whenever it is where we can actually get together in the same place and have a pint of beer together.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Take care now. Thanks for your time.
We'll see you.
Thanks.
Yeah, we'll see you soon. Bye.